Now, here's the sort of catch-22. So we exist on 4 planes. Is that okay? 4 levels. Spiritual, physical, mental, emotional. Now, let's go back maybe to 150, 200, 250, 300, and let's keep going back as far as we can go. Predominantly speaking, how did all learning take place? Sorry? Through experience. In other words, it was hands-on. In other words, it was physical. There was no schools. Okay, so you basically learn from your mother or your father, or you learn from, you know, the blacksmith or the baker, or you learn from the, you know, the barker, the tree fella, the timber cutter, but it was basically you learned on the job. There was no intellectual thing. Here, just do it, and do it like this. So, you learned, all learning was basically at the physical. Now, if you did it long enough, the emotional didn't actually kick in. You know, I mean, a bit of fear, a bit of angst might have been there, but once you actually learn something, it then goes up into there, doesn't it? Oh, okay, now you understand it emotionally. And after you do something over and over and over again, you tend to understand it at the mental level. Oh, now I know why I'm supposed to hold the stick like that. Oh, now I know why I've got to do that part of it before I do that part of it. Now I know why it's so important to study the grain in wood before I take to it with a tool. Now I know I need to understand the fracturing of the rock before I start hooking into it. Now I know why I've got to plant it at this season instead of that season. Now I know why the recipe is like that, and that one's got to go in. It's got to go in that order. I can't shuffle them around. See, now you get it. Now, let's fast forward to the modern era. How is all learning done now, or most learning done now?
Mental.
Yeah, it's mental. So it's actually mental. So we sit in classrooms for 12 years. It's just mental. No emotional, no physical. And then when you go out of the system, now you're supposed to know something, aren't you? Or you might go to uni and do it for another 3 years. But there's been no hands-on physical. There's been no... And if you think about the emotions create the thought patterns, which then create the behaviours. So there's been no learning at the emotional level, and there's been no learning at the physical level. So when you say that you want to come here, you understand it in your head, but you can't produce the emotions to produce the behaviour to make the change. Does that make sense for people? And so you're stuck all the time in your head. Yeah, I want to do. Well, you're stuck at the emotional level because you can't choose different emotions, and because you can't choose different emotions, you can't choose different thoughts. And if you can't choose different thoughts, you can't produce different behaviours. And so that's where the breakdown happens for most people. So we need to make an adjustment to these levels. And we need to get really clear, and we need to evolve that. And that needs to evolve over time. And the more supportive the environment, the easier it actually gets. the more new meaning you give something, the easier it gets. But if you insist on using your old meanings, the harder it gets. And that's the problem. As Genpo said last night, you know, even his dog knows to let go of whatever it's hanging on to in order to receive a treat. Do you know, it's we humans that actually haven't actually worked that out. We can observe it, and we can intellectualize it, but when it comes to emotionally dropping the bone, or when it comes to physically stop hanging on to whatever it is that you're hanging on to, very, very difficult to do.
We start off that way in life though as babies. Like we watch our son grow now and he's learning through physical because you can't mentally teach a baby, so it's all physical.
Yeah, until that one baby gets snatched from you by the system
Yeah.
and stuck into daycare.
Yep. And it's all downhill.
Pretty much. Any sort of observation on that? Any sort of commentary or?